Great. All right, well, I guess we should get started. Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Community Engagement Task Force meeting from the Housing Commission. Thanks for being here. And so we don't have any public comment. So to start off the meeting, I thought we could do just a little icebreaker, and then we can get into Erica's presentation. So our icebreaker today, if you're feeling comfortable sharing, is just if you have any fun weekend plans. I can go first. I am going to Pittsburgh this weekend to visit my twin sister, and it's both of our birthday on Friday. So we're gonna celebrate our birthday together.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Exciting.
Thanks. Should be fun. Yeah, we like Pittsburgh a lot. My boyfriend and I. It's very fun.
So you born and raised Pittsburgh, or you?
I'm from the Philadelphia area.
Okay.
So she went to school in Pittsburgh. Yeah. All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll go because I'm going to return. It might be I want to say it's our 11th year doing this island camping. The group of families, we go out on an island on the Potomac between Violet's Lock and Pennyfield Locks. We paddle out to the island, we hang out, we paddle around and campfire and hang out, and then paddle home on Monday. So
Nice. That sounds great. I forgot to add, since we have Nia here for the first time, why don't we also add just like what organization we're part of? So I'm with I'm part of the Housing Commission and vice chair of the Housing Commission. And Michael.
So yeah, I'm with Affordable Homes and Communities, AHC, Director of Resident or Community Engagement Resident Services. And I'm here representation of Alba Silva, who's the program manager for community engagement, who's on leave today.
I'll go next since I'm unmuted. I'm Karen Surface. I am also on the Housing Commission and also on this task force. And my day job, I work for Latino Economic Development Center. I'm actually a HUD certified housing counselor and a program manager for our Virginia office. And my fun thing for this weekend, I hope it turns out to be fun. My niece is getting married in Charlottesville. So my cousin's son from Finland is here, and he is coming with us all. So it's going to be fun having a foreigner with us to experience Charlottesville and a big wedding. Should I pass it on to somebody else? Alice, maybe?
Sure. Hi there. I'm in my kitchen making dinner for my family right now. So I can turn on my camera, but it's probably distracting. Let's see. Here we go. Hi. I'm Alice Hogan, and let's see. I was once on the Housing Commission for many years. I currently work for NAVAHA, which is the Northern Virginia Affordable Housing Alliance, and I work here in Arlington. Let's see. Oh, I have 0 plans for the long weekend, which I'm so excited about because we had a family reunion last weekend. My nephew was in, cousins were up. It was cuckoo. My daughter came home from college, so I am tired. That was the crazy weekend, and hopefully this will be the nice, calm one. So,
Good.
But all you guys' plans sound just delightful. Who's next? Let's see. I'll pick a name. Who is John Reynolds? I don't even know John Reynolds.
Now you do. Hello. I am the John Reynolds, and I'm still in my office in DC. So this isn't my usual home setup, even though I feel like I live here sometimes. So I represent the Tenant Landlord Commission. I am there. I represent the special interest, public interest, as a chairperson. And when I'm not doing that, I am working here in DC for a company called Comline as their head of talent acquisition. They do advanced separation technologies and manufacturing here across the United States. So anything involving water, they're there and they're a part of. What else? Fun weekend plans. Embarrassingly, when that question was asked, I had to go to my cell phone to see what I promised my girlfriend I would do based off the ideas she gave me because I've been so busy. I know I signed up on Monday to do yoga at Lost Boys Saturday, so I have that planned. But for the Saturday and Sunday, I think I also do some clothes shopping that I also promised. So I'll try to get some mimosas or brunch because it's recorded. Try a brunch while shopping as well, before, during, and after to make it more an enjoyable experience for all those involved. But yeah, so that's what I got going on. So thank you for the introduction. It's always fun to see you all again. And I'm gonna turn this back off, and I think Alexander is next. I'll name a name.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Alex McMillan. I am the Housing Commission liaison, so I'm here as staff and part of the Housing Division and just running the logistics. And this weekend, I'm actually headed out of town. I'm going to be gone all next week as well. I'm going to Norway with my family, so very excited for that. And I can pass it off to Nia.
Hey, everybody. My name is Nia, and I am the Vice Chair of the Planning Commission and coincidentally also the chair this year for the Site Plan Review Committee or Commission process, so which I know will be of interest to you down the road. And I'm thrilled for people who are doing Norway and catching up with their twin sister and doing weddings. I am heading to Michigan for the weekend. It's a small town that I was raised in, and Sunday morning I'll be laying flags on the graves for the vets. And then Monday morning there'll be a traditional Memorial Day celebration, which is really cool in the cemetery, and lots of speakers. And it just takes you to a different place. And then most of the week after that, I will be seeing friends and family. So that's it for me. And I will keep my camera off because I am also in the process of eating and I don't want to look bad for anybody. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks and welcome, Nia. I appreciate you being on the committee and really looking forward to collaborating with you, hearing more about the SPRC process. Who wants to go next? Erica, would you like to go next?
I didn't know if I got to go because I'm the guest here.
Sure.
Erica Moore, Assistant County Manager for Communications and Public Engagement here at Arlington County. Very excited to be here with you guys tonight and talk to you a little bit about what we do on my team, or one aspect of my team. I am unfortunately, deep in my kids' youth sports world. So I am going to be at a baseball tournament all weekend in beautiful, exotic Fairfax. I don't even get to go to like Myrtle Beach or anywhere. It's right here in Fairfax, but it's one we do every year. It's really great. It was started as a childhood cancer research fundraiser, and so all the local teams do it, which is really great. So it's a wooden bat tournament too, which is always, they got all the fancy bats now, but they get to go back to wooden bats. So it's fun. I will call on somebody. I'll call on Saul. I don't know if Saul and Joe joined after you shared the icebreaker, Katie. They may not know what we're doing, although they may have picked up on it.
I have picked up on it. My name is Saul Reyes. I'm with Bogota Tennis Association. I am actually joining from my cell phone, so I will also turn off the camera and just grab some dinner. No exciting weekend plans, really. I'm going to stick around Arlington. I haven't checked around what is taking place this weekend in Arlington, but there's always something exciting going on. So I'll be here. Thank you.
I can't get my camera to work.
We can see you.
Okay, well, I
Like-
can't see my, well, whatever. Okay, if you're asking
see
about
you.
the week, if you're asking about the weekend, I'm gonna do absolutely nothing, and I strive to do absolutely nothing on major weekends, and I look out on my, out my condo, look at the traffic and bumper to bumper, and I thank God that I'm not on the road. So that's what I'm gonna do this weekend.
Nice. And Joe is with the Housing Commission as well.
Okay, I couldn't hear you there.
I
Oh, I'm
was
sorry.
just introducing
Yeah,
you as part of the Housing Commission.
Right, I'm a member of the Housing Commission, yeah.
Okay, I think everyone went. Thank you, everybody. I always like doing a little icebreaker at the beginning. So our next agenda item is Erica from the county manager presenting. Wait, county manager, is that right? Presenting.
Assistant county manager. I work for the county manager.
Yes. Okay. Presenting on the county's community engagement, existing community engagement programs. So I'll hand it off to you, Erica. Thank you.
Great. And I'm going to present. Let's find out if it's going to work. I'm doing the fancy PowerPoint Live present in Teams option. So we're going to see. Can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. So as Katie so wonderfully did you say it's blank, Michael?
Yeah, now I see a little, I don't know if anyone else sees stuff, but I see dark and now spinning wheel.
I can see it just fine.
Okay, then it's me.
Okay. All right. And I'll be talking a lot, so you'll be able to follow along even.
I can
And
see
I
it
will
also.
I will be sharing this presentation with Alex after the meeting, so you can send that a copy to you because there are some links in here and things like that, so you can have it as well there.
Yeah, and I can see it also, Erica, just to suggest, Mike, sometimes when this happens to me, I turn off my own video and sometimes it might be a connectivity thing. Oh, you see it.
Oh,
Awesome.
great. Thank you.
Yay.
Great. So as Katie said in her introduction, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we have worked on our public engagement strategies and where we currently stand and where we are headed with the way that we conduct community engagement here. So as I mentioned, this is me and this is my email address, so you will have it if you ever want to get in touch with me or have any questions. So as Katie said, I sit in the county manager's office and I have a team that has 4 different sort of buckets that go into it. It's known as the CMO CAPE team for communications and public engagement there, and it's got 4 different sections. We have our communications team that manages our newsrooms, helps get all the news releases out for the departments, county website, Inside Arlington newsletter that I hope everybody subscribed to, and our county social media channels. And then we also, the communications team also works most directly with the media in terms of media responses, interview requests, those sorts of things. And then we have the Arlington Video Group. Some of you may remember it called as Arlington TV, where we work with the departments to create original videos. They're also responsible for all of the live streaming of board meetings, events, both things out in the community, things here at the government center, and they manage our county cable channels and any of the digital e-boards you may see in community centers and in some of our other county facilities. Some of our bus stops are starting to get them, so getting some of the videos and the information out to people in those ways. And then we have our public engagement team, which is obviously where I'll be spending most of my time here tonight. And this is the folks that lead a lot of our community engagement efforts, are really thought leaders for the county, and then also lead communications that the county manager's office does. So we run the engagements for the budget, capital improvement plan, those sorts of things. And then we work with the other departments as they run their own engagements. And then the final one is the newest one to come under the CAPE team. This actually is a shift as of just a few months ago. And we have a new director of constituent services as well. And this is really because I see the CAPE team as a Venn diagram, right? Communication feeds public engagement. public engagement feeds constituent services. If I think of public engagement as relationship building or engagements, constituent service is sort of the advocacy, problem solving, helping people navigate. And there's a lot of overlap. We use video in our communication. So it really has been, I think, a really huge change for us. I think one of the things that's you guys may be aware of, but sharing, is that in Arlington County, we have decentralized communications. So each of the departments, except for like DMF, Department of Management and Finance, have their own communications and engagement teams of varying sizes. We are not, they don't report to like my team. They report up to their department directors. And we really, I see CMO CAPE as a hub and a resource so we can help folks talk to one another, make those connections, learn from one another, set policy times in terms of how we operate and things like that. But they have their own social media, they have their own newsletters, they build their own engagements, and they have those own relationships. So really quick, this is just our communication team. Ryan Hudson, the director of communication, leads that, and he has 2 communication specialists working for him that specialize in communications, graphics, social media, those sorts of things. Jeremy Carpel is our video production manager. He has 2 people working for although the one we just lost to the retirement last month, Peter Hill, who was a long-term video producer here. And then we have David Wood, who is really our engineer, and he is responsible for every technical aspect of like the boardroom cameras and all of that stuff. And he's really invaluable to the organization. Constituent services team is actually our largest team. So Stephanie Bello is our new director. I know, he's so great. We're very upset that we lost Pete. But Stephanie Bello is our new director of constituent services. She actually just started in January, so she's only got about a quarter of a year under her belt, little plus. And what she oversees is our welcome center down on the first floor. When you first walk in, we have 2 welcome center ambassadors. Our security also sits there. Residential parking permit folks sometimes sit there. The 2 welcome center ambassadors, Alexandra and Aquila, are on her team. And then she has 3 constituent services, main constituent services team members, 2 of which haven't even been with the county for a year. Jenny and Alejandra, they were hired last July. So really there's been a lot of evolution in our constituent services team. And then Caitlin Thomas serves as our business ombuds as well. And then our public engagement team, which is last but not least, and I put them last because this is where I'm going to spend most of my time. Some of you may know Sarah Tracy, who's our director of public engagement and is wonderful and amazing. We have finally been able to fully build out her team. So we have Megan Judd. You may have, she just got married, so her name just changed. So you may have interacted with her maiden name, but Megan Judd as a public engagement specialist. Amina Aitbella, who works with us. You may have known her. She worked for Katie Crystal. She was Katie Crystal's aide, and we were able to grab her before we lost her out of the organization when Katie left the board office. And then the newest addition just a few months ago is Bianca Sanchez Kohler. And they really focus on a lot of different aspects that you'll hear about tonight and are great resources and practitioners in this space. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about our philosophy and our approach to public engagement. We really have strived to take a very intentional approach. A lot of this is from my predecessor, Bryna Helfer, who I guess I should have given a little bit of my background. I first came to Arlington County as a member of Bryna's team and spent 3+ years there, including helping lead the Joint Information Center all during the COVID-19 pandemic. And then moved over to CPHD and was their communications manager for about 2.5 years. And then when Bryna decided she was going to jump back into the federal government, they asked me to come back and serve in this role. And then I was able to, as an acting role, and then I was able to compete for the job and just got officially hired last July. So I haven't even officially been in this role a full year yet. But I say that because really this is, it has been a journey. And it did start with Bryna. When she came in 2016, the communications and public engagement team was really formed for the first time and really that was the first time we'd had communications, we'd had Arlington TV, but we really didn't have that public engagement aspect of it. And that was a big passion of Bryna, and the way that those go hand in hand. I'm not going to go through everything here, but you'll obviously get to see this when we share it. But public engagement really is a journey, and it is ever evolving, ever learning, ever changing as things happen. I mean, one of the biggest, I'll talk about some of these more in depth as we get down, but of course, I would say the COVID pandemic, for all of the things it changed, it changed engagement a lot. We wouldn't have been meeting like this in 2018, right? And so not only did it create more opportunities, it created more challenges, and it created a lot, and we've had to learn and adjust through that. And then I will say one of the most recent ones, and I'll talk a little bit about those later, are the Arlington initiative, which is really about making a one-stop shop for program information and resources for teens, youth, and families. And then our community office hours, which we're really proud of. We, engagement, and I'll get into our philosophy a little bit more, is not just about asking people for things, but it's about showing up in their community, providing them the resources and providing them the information. And that's really and then being there if they have questions. And that's really the philosophy behind the community office hours. We do them right now. We're doing them at AFAC and at the Arlington Free Clinic once a month. And we're bringing resources and information to share out with folks from all departments. So again, this goes back to us being a resource and a hub. We will take the information that departments want folks to know and provide that to them. And the response has just been really great from folks. All right. As I said, it's a journey. We had the PLACE report, participation, leadership, and civic engagement in 2012, and then the community facility study that some of you may remember in 2015. And both of those really led to our communications and engagement action plan, which was done in early 2018. And it talked a lot about calling for us to engage early, diversify participation, communicate often, and expand our outreach tools to connect with the community in a variety of ways. And that has really been the continued foundation of the work that we do. And again, as I said, we have a journey here, but we really look to, as I said, Venn diagram. I use that analogy a lot. To bring together our communications, our engagement, all the ways we communicate, and our subject matter experts. So our folks like you, folks like Alex and the staff, who are subject matter experts in the work that they're doing or have a different experience in the arena that we're working in. And that really helps strengthen our work. It helps us build more consistency in our practices and helps us really leverage our relationships as well, which I'll talk a lot about in a little bit. And again, as we established our public engagement practice, we really established some values of our public engagement. These are drawn from the International Association of Public Participation. And one of the things we do as the county manager's public engagement team is Sarah Tracy and her team. We conduct public engagement trainings annually with our staff. So that's people that are actively out engaging and communicating, as well as subject matter experts. I argue that everybody's a communicator and everybody's an engager. And so we want them to go through and have the real sound foundation of public engagement. And we really train to these values and to the 6-step guide for public engagement, which is coming up next. So the 6-step guide for public engagement was developed in 2018, and it is online, so you can always go there and review, and I'll have some links at the end, and review it in more depth. It was developed specifically around capital projects. We were hearing a lot of like, hey, this construction just happened, this intersection, where were we in this process, right? And so it was a way to make sure that in our capital projects, we were making sure that we were involving the community, informing the community in a way that didn't feel like we were springing things on them. But while it was originally designed just for capital projects, we use it across our entire engagement spectrum, and actually been talking to Sarah about doing an update to it to make that even clearer, because I think people hear like, oh, it's for capital projects, so you don't use it. And it's like, no, we use it every single day in our practice. So, but it really does help bring some consistency. And obviously we start with clearly defining the project, plan, program, or service, identify impacted and interested communities, which I'll talk about next, determining our level of engagement, which is so key. And then we create, so there's a lot of work that goes into before we ever make a plan. And then we create the plan, we execute the plan, we do analysis of all of the data and the information that we collect, whether that's quantitative analysis or qualitative analysis. And then we complete the closeout and do an after action. And sometimes that's just really looking at, hey, here were our goals that we laid out in our plan. Did we reach them, right? If we talk about our and I'll talk some about our dashboards in a minute, if we were striving, if we were working in a community that had this variety of diversity in it, do our responses and do our participants reflect that diversity? If we really wanted to make sure we were reaching out to renters, like how did we do in that? And and this is also where we learn from each other in those spaces, in meetings and in departmental meetings, to help. Hey, this didn't work, or hey, we went to this place and it was great. Everybody should go there. We got so much participation, so we can really learn from one another. So I'm going to focus on two of the biggest, I think the most important steps to ensuring intentional engagement. And the first is these impacted communities. And this is really, like it says right there on the screen, a strategy for identifying who's impacted. And I'll talk a little bit about our equity lens, which I'm sure you're all familiar with in a little bit. But, there are those in the community who are aware of the issues, programs, the things that we do. And they are, folks that like you all that serve on commissions or who know to come to meetings or know where to find the information or know how to go on the website. And that is, so they have a lot of that community awareness. They're in that like sort of purple green section. But then there's those folks that are in it's not really red, it's like pinkish section. And those are the ones that we really think about a lot. Who are the most impacted by what is going on and the least aware, right? Because we want to move them from that pink box into that green box. And so that's where a lot of our strategies coming, and I'll talk a little bit about how we do that. But it's really about finding those opportunities and those access points to bring them from pink to green there in this chart. And then we talk about levels of engagement. These are really key. We call these our badges. And again, these are built from the International Participation for Public Participation, Partnership for Public Participation. I always get my P's mixed up. And the first one is the communicate level, which is like, hey, this is happening. There, it's just outward, as you'll see. The consult, which is a lot of the feedback forms you guys are familiar with, public hearings, and then involve is all of that and more. And I think that's one of the biggest things is we start to go from left to right, from light blue to dark blue. Each of these builds on one another. So if you're in involve, you're also everything in communicate and consult, right? If you're in consult, you're everything in communicate, if that makes sense there. And then of course the collaborate is the most involved engagements. This has a lot of our partnerships and the work that we do and sort of our long-term projects. And I think that one of the important things that I talk about with the engagers and with my team is that in any project, you may be in a different phase of engagement or a different level of engagement depending on what phase you're in, right? So you could, we're going to communicate out that this is happening, right? So in the very beginning, you might just be in communicate, hey, and then as you go along, things are gonna change, and you may ultimately in the whole package be in a collaborate, but each piece may be slightly different. All right, so that's our philosophy, and that's the way we do it. But now, how do we get that from like a nice 6-step guide into an actual plan, and put that into our practice? And the first piece of that, and the thing that I charge the engagers and the communicators to really start with, is engaging with that equity lens. I'm sure you all are familiar with the questions: who benefits, who is burdened, who's missing, how do we know, and what did we do, or what are we going to do about it? And that's not just for example, the there might be two versions of the equity lens when it comes to a project, right? There's understanding the equity lens about the project itself, about the intersection improvement, about the housing project, about the site plan. And then there's the equity lens on our engagement plan. So we consider both of those things, right? So if we look at our engagement plan, who's benefiting from what we've laid out, who's burdened by it? And so it's a constant check as we go through there. And I've really encouraged our communicators and engagers to be the champions of ensuring that this equity lens is put forward in all of the conversations that they're having in their departments. And here's just some of the questions and things on each of the 6-step guides. So it's how we some potential questions or that we may ask at every step of the 6-step guide, and how we ensure equity at each phase. It's not just something you do in phase 2 and then stop, right? It's something that you're putting through every piece of your engagement plan, of a project plan there. And you guys may be aware of this, but one of the things that we absolutely rely on every single day as communicators and engagers are our dashboards. You probably know CPHD has a great research and strategic initiatives group that have put together some amazing work that we, like I said, use every day, whether that's the race and ethnicity dashboard, the census tract demographic dashboard. One of the ones that's really helpful as a layering for us is the population and demographic estimates dashboard. We know neighborhoods don't follow census tracts, right? So when we had the census data, and that was so amazing, but we were trying to have to like, okay, half of this tract and half of this tract and all of that, we were trying to have to like figure out like who are we actually needing to follow. So having this using our civic association boundaries, which are much more often how our projects are discussed or centralized, is so helpful there. And so that is huge for us. And then the newest one is the Community Vulnerability Index Map, which is a geographic tool that's really designed to identify concentrations of vulnerable populations. And that's from a variety. It's a lot of different definitions, everything from food insecurity to aging communities to non-English speaking. So it really runs the gamut as we think about that. And we really layer all of these on as we start to think about how are we going to build our communications and engagement plan. And you'll see, communications and engagement plans will often lay this out. We'll have the equity questions and say, okay, who's already engaged? Who do we want to reach based on our demographics that we don't have an en-road into? And so all of these pieces really do work together. And then we also have our multifamily complex directory. This started out of the panic of the early days of COVID, when we were like, how are we getting information to people that may not be engaged and are stuck inside their house? How are we getting all of our renters? You all know I don't need to quote the percentages there, but all of our folks in multifamily buildings, how are we going to reach them? We don't have a civic association president contact that we've already connected with. And so we really started a lot of groundwork to get these condo and apartment building information, contact information, if they have a condo association, if they have a tenant association there, and then obviously property management. And it is a never-ending project because, as I'm sure you all know, property managers change over constantly, right? So, but it's filterable, and all of our teams use this. Again, I'll use a great example. When I was in CPHD, we really started using this around our site plans, right? And coming up with, okay, what are the multifamily buildings that are in this site plan or right next to that we may need to make sure that we're engaging with? Do they have a tenant association? If they have a tenant association, let's offer them a seat on the SPRC. And if they don't have a tenant association, how are we going to get the information to them? A great example was Wakefield Manor, where that was actually living residents, right? That were in there and where the property owner wanted to redevelop. And we put together flyers and we translated them and we had all the information and here's where you go and tell us what you think and make sure you know about this. And we just got permission to go in and we just flyered under every single door. So this is a really huge resource for us. I think renters is one of the things, reaching renters is one of the things that keeps me up at night, I think, safe to say. And then we have our this is an internal guide, our guide to equitable engagement, where we identify common barriers to engagement and we identify tools and strategies to overcome those barriers, to really reach those historically underrepresented communities. And then we talk about county policies related to engagement activities. So obviously there are restrictions on how we as a government can provide incentives for people to participate, right? We hear about that a lot. Like, can we get, can we participate? So we partner with nonprofits like Bugada and such to help allow those. And those were worked out with our Department of Management and Finance, our county attorney's office, all sorts of people to make sure that we were following state law, county policy, county code, all of those things. And that really helps departments and department teams figure out how are we going to do this. And that is a huge resource there for our internal folks. So those are all the resources we use, but I think that one of the core of successful engagement and something that Sarah and I talk about a lot is building relationships, right? There's nothing better than a relationship to help you get the word out, to help you make inroads to a community that maybe you haven't been able to engage with previously. So that is our civic associations, of course, our nonprofits and our community orgs, our business and faith leaders. The faith leaders is a new one that well, not new, because we've been trying and working with them for a while, but now we are really trying to take a strategic and intentional approach to how we bring them together to have conversations. We just did our first roundtable with county board and county manager with faith leaders. We had 39 faith leaders that represented 16,000 residents, which is great. That is just a great opportunity. And often, particularly as we start talking about equitable engagement and reaching those communities that perhaps are not as comfortable engaging with the government, faith communities can be really invaluable because that may be their safe space, right? And they don't want to hear it from us. They don't want to hear it from the government. They want to hear it from somebody they know, somebody they trust, and creating these relationships in a really authentic way. And that also goes back to, we don't always want to be going out to the community and asking for something, asking for input, asking for this. We want to show them that we are a resource for them as well. And that those relationships become very, very key in that regard. And then the final one that's on here is our engagement brigade. So this is something that sort of stemmed over the years and has had different iterations. These are folks that we were often pulling from graduates of neighborhood college, but people that are invested in the community and have interest in potentially helping us. They would help us with some of our engagement, pop-ups and things like that, and help us with staffing the things before we had a fully fleshed out staff. But now Sarah and I are really talking about what is the next iteration of the brigade, and does this become more of a community liaison type role, which is, I know, something that they're doing and exploring for the first time through the comprehensive plan work that's coming up on how they do that. And so is that another way? Is this a new version of the engagement brigade? I'm almost done, I promise. And then I'll take all your questions and all your comments. So then what does that look like as we go into the community and as we actually do the engagement plans come off the page and into the world? It is direct outreach. It is ensuring that we've identified our engagement plans have the right point of contact, and we are sending out that information early and often. We are making it very easy for our community leaders to share information in a cut and paste fashion, right? We're not asking them to go through a huge document and figure out how they're going to want to share it out, trying to make it very, very simple for them, and really talking about in our direct outreach, talking about, why it matters to them, right? is really important. Boots on the ground is key. I mentioned the Wakefield Manor site plan. Another one that went on while I was in CPHD was the Langston Boulevard area plan, and we literally had engagers walking Langston Boulevard at in the morning and in the evening at rush hour, and handing out business cards with QR codes to information and engagements at bus stops along Langston. We had stickers that we would put on the ground, similar to like those stay 6 feet apart stickers, trying to get people to become aware, because people are just living their lives, right? And so you got to get out and you got to get into the community in that way. Leveraging community events, we do a lot of it's meeting people where they are, right? It's figuring out where people might be gathering, where people might come, which is why when we do our community office hours, we're using food distribution hours at AFAC. We're using clinic hours at the Arlington Free Clinic. We're using our events that already exist, right? We don't need to reinvent the wheel and try and draw people to something. Let's just go where they are and maybe bring a table, or maybe we just bring a clipboard, or maybe we just walk around, right? And then multiple entry points, wanting to make sure that we give people a variety of ways to engage with us. So was really important to me when I was in CPHD, and it's something I've continued to preach here since I've come back across the organization, is making sure that no matter how somebody engages with us, they are getting the same opportunity, right? So making sure that if we're asking questions at a pop-up and we're doing an online feedback form, we got questions that align. You may be able to ask more questions in a feedback form, but there are got to be questions from that feedback form that we're asking at the pop-up, so we can actually combine data and really try and get that fuller picture. If we're having a focus group and we're having discussion questions in person, we should be having those same questions in a listening session, so that there is not an inherent disadvantage to one way that somebody engages with us in terms of their potential to impact a process, a program, a project, or something like that. And then that also allows for people to engage at the level that they're comfortable with or have time for. And then equitable engagement and action. I talked about our community office hours. That comes directly from that. The roundtables. So the manager, again, goes back to, sometimes we just need to listen. We're not there to necessarily accomplish something in the sense of like, we need to get this project to a certain place, or we're talking to you about this one thing, but going and being out in the community and making sure that community members see the manager, they see leadership, they see staff out there just interested in understanding their lived experience and interested in understanding what they experience and how they experience Arlington, and what influence or impact, the county government can have on that. We do a lot at AHC of those roundtables, which are just really great. And then we focus on accessible events. So assuming you're having an event that's in person, we're offering live simultaneous translation. We have a vendor for that. Obviously, materials are translated. We tend to focus on our first our top languages spoken, but then again, with our demographics dashboard, a race and ethnicity dashboard, we can find out if the community we're trying to reach is, got a very high Korean population. And so now we need to focus on those languages instead. So we're able to really get down to the tight level when it comes to some of our work, offering children's activities, food and incentives through a nonprofit, not through the county, and then like making sure things are near transit options, and are we considering time of day, and varying those sorts of things. That is now the baseline for what we attempt to do, and it's critical because that's meeting people where they are. And then just I have only a couple slides left, but I mentioned the Arlington's effort that we just started. So this came out of, you might recall, when we had the rash of overdoses in our teens, and the county board said, we've got to figure out how to reach them, how to talk with them, and then what are the programs, right? We're not the programs, we're the outreach. And what we learned is that we do have a lot of really great programs, people didn't know where to find them, right? So that was the foundation of Arlington's, and it again, this was about us sharing resources, us sharing information, but like Sarah's team, the public engagement team, they are at each of the high schools during lunch and now have become like a fixture. And they're there and they're sharing information and they're hearing from people and they've got little activities and things like that. You know, people are now coming up and, oh, I know, I've heard of Arlington's, right? And we're able to hear from them. What do they need to know from their county government? What are they looking for? But that also really has opened. We work with the Buckingham Youth Brigade, just a lot of different and connected. The relationship with the schools has just been amazing through that. But what that has done is that has really opened the doors to engaging with youth and their families, because Arlington's has a parents of youth and teens component as well. So that when the time comes of like, hey, we want to now come out and talk to you about this project or X, Y, and Z, there is a relationship there. And I think it's a great example of what can be done when we sort of step outside our traditional thought and the way we think about engaging with folks, and we really come at it from a partnership standpoint. So just wanted to highlight that for you guys, since we're really proud of it. And then my final thoughts, and I say a lot of these to my team a lot. I really encourage them to think of our job as communicators of engagement is awareness. So making sure people know what's going on to the best of our ability and increasing the opportunities for them to learn what's going on, and accessibility, whatever that means for them. It could just mean plain language. Please don't talk to me in government speak, right? It could mean an actual translation. It could mean close to transit. It could mean I need to be able to bring my kids. It could, looking at our spaces, right? Are they accessible to all varying times? What we can't do is force somebody to engage, right? And that's the hardest part of our job. How do you quantify, hey, somebody saw this, knew about it, read about it, what have you, and chose not to engage because maybe that's not their issue, right? They're like, oh, those other people have it, or hey, that's cool, they're doing that, but I don't have the time, right? That you can't gauge that, right? And so you can get really caught up in like, I did all of this stuff, and what did I get for it, right? What was the return on investment? And I'll jump down my thing is, engagement's not a zero-sum game, right? So you're not talking about, you may be putting in all that effort for awareness and all of these people didn't bother to engage, but the next time you go back on a different topic, they may be like, I remember, I can go here, I want to talk to you, and now I care about this issue. So the foundation that you laid the first time by doing it all matters again. And I think the other way I look at it is, engagement, I say it, it's a fairly flippant thing that I say, but I really mean it. I always say, I don't care what your opinion is. I just want your opinion, right? Like, it's not about votes. It's not about your voice. This voice matters more than that voice. I want all the voices, because all we do is we collect it, we use it, we provide it, and then ultimately we provide data points for the board as they're making their considerations. And so it doesn't become like, oh, I've heard from this group, so I don't need to hear from that group. I want to hear from all the groups all the time there. And then also, particularly as we talk about seeking that awareness and seeking that accessibility through our equitable engagement, is never be afraid to try. Like, it's totally fine to like go to a pop-up and spend your time and be like, nah, that location didn't work, right? That's a learning experience, because then we get to go back and tell people there, or, I tried this brand new, I tried to do reels on Instagram and nobody watched them. Okay, now I know, right? Those sorts of things. Never be afraid to try and to say, you know what, it's okay that didn't work, because I probably learned something about my practice, even if it didn't necessarily give me the engagement that I wanted out of it. And I'll go right back to the beginning, that this is a journey. It is ever evolving. There is anybody who says that we will one day we'll just crack engagement and it will be perfect all the time and we're gonna get it all right. Probably has never tried to engage with anybody, because it is a journey, and can sometimes feel like you're not making progress, and that's okay, right? We keep going, we keep learning, and that's the I say I can't ever guarantee that I said this to board at one point. There will never be a point where I will come to you and say, this is absolutely what the Arlington community as a whole feels. But what I can guarantee you is that I will continue to try every day, all the way through, and all of the staff will, to try and find more ways to get more feedback and more people involved in these processes. But we're never going to sort of get to like, we did it. Like, we're never going to have that mission accomplished moment, but that's okay. So, because it's people. And now I'm done. I promise. I've talked for a very long time, but you can tell I'm very passionate about this work. My whole team is very passionate about this work. And, I think we're really lucky in Arlington County to approach engagement the way that we do and to really be so intentional. I think it is very unusual for local governments. And I think we're really a model for a lot of, that doesn't mean we're perfect. We are far from it. But I think the way we do it is something to be proud of. So yeah. And so, yes, I will take questions however you want to do it, Katie. Happy to.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. I know I learned a lot. And, why don't we open up to questions?
Yeah. Nia, I think you're, yeah.
Hey, Erica, I just wanted to thank you for your presentation tonight. And I was the Civic Association president for Boston, Virginia Square Civic Association back when Bryna first started. And now, with so much development in the RB corridor, which affected us so much, I had to be a little bit more assertive to go and just find answers. And I never did find, even before Bryna got there, that I couldn't get in with somebody if I needed to. However, I will say that when Bryna got there, she hit the ground running, and things changed dramatically, very quickly. And I think, when people talk to me, both as a past Civic Association president and as a planning commissioner, the avenues, as you were just saying, are so incredible here in Arlington that are not available in other places. I talk to people all over the country who are involved or not involved in their local civic things, and they're shocked that I can make an appointment with a board member. I can sit down with, the county manager. I can do all those things because the county makes that available to me. And to really everybody. So I just want to, as a former Civic Association president who had a huge number of redevelopment projects in the Civic Association and had to work with many neighbors who, were very much impacted by all of these and really didn't understand the process. And I didn't understand it. I had to find out for myself so I could help them. I will say that Arlington has got a terrific engagement system already set up. And I think you guys even endeavor to improve it every day. So on behalf of somebody who really has to use the system this way, I just want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And it does mean a lot because I know folks are working every single day to make it happen. And, I know that you mentioned your SBRC chair this year, and that's one of the processes that I think confuses people the most. So like, how do we work together with you guys on the SPRC side and us as the communications and engagement? How do we work together and help each other, right, through those processes? Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, hi, Joe Ventrone. I'm also president of my Civic Association in North Roslyn, and we work with Sarah a lot, and it's very helpful. And I've been on the Housing Commission, I think, going on 2 years. I was on the Housing Commission 35 years ago.
Wow.
And one of the things, I'm old. One of the things.
No, it's great. I love it.
You can't see my picture, though. One of the things I really don't understand, we, the Housing Commission and the County Board, approved independent living for the elderly, I think Crystal 4 a month ago. It was the first independent living for seniors that was approved in the last 20 years. I think that's a big deal. And when we were doing it at the Housing Commission, I said, I hope we get some publicity out of this, stuff like that. But I don't see anything from the county basically communicating the things that we're doing on affordable housing.
Yes, absolutely. I can say telling our own story has been one of the things that we're trying to figure out. How do we share our successes? How do we really highlight those? Obviously, we have like the press releases and things like that, but like when something goes through the board, the decision on news releases and those sorts of things then live with the board office, right? We don't have those, then don't come from staff. But how do we, outside of that process, make sure that we are sharing those positive stories? And I think I would encourage you maybe to share those ideas with Alex, and Alex can take them back to the CPHD comms team, and maybe there's a way to do it there. If there's a way that we can be supportive, we work really hard. And it is one of the challenges, right, in our county manager form of government. We don't want to get ahead of how the board wants to talk about something that they've taken action on, but certainly I think there's opportunities to.
Let me give you an example. This came up. I'm also on the ordinance committee working group from yesterday, and it also came up, and I think Alice is here. She was on the thing. It's basically, we should be. We went through Missing Middle. Missing Middle was a communications nightmare. It was done during COVID. No one was around it. No one, it wasn't explained properly. But I think if Arlington residents, all 240,000 of them, knew what the county was doing and saw these affordable housing developments that were coming up, they would then, when they hear Missing Middle or whatever, the people in Country Club Hills are not going to be as vociferous as they are. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And that we as a county, and this is why I got on this working group, because I firmly believe, and I've been doing federal housing policy for 50 years, and I believe it is basically being transparent of what we're doing. We're doing a lot of things. And people should know about it. And when we ask to, tweak the zoning and stuff like that, they shouldn't get ready to sue.
Right.
So,
I think that's a really good, that is really great feedback to hear. And I think it is important to think about. And that's part of one of the things that we work on with our communications team, right? One of the challenges in communications is our website, and not because the website is quote unquote bad, but I don't know if you're, I'll give you a fun brief history of the county.
Website is phenomenal. My problem is there's so much stuff, it's hard to find it. Like these dashboards you showed are phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say is that, I'll take you on a journey back to the website back when we were on WordPress, right? If anybody's familiar with WordPress, and we had sites within sites. So like if you were at building.arlingtonva.us, you had permission for that site. You couldn't edit anything else on the site. So you ended up with these silos and lots of content and lots of duplication and lots of detail. And, so that is part of what we're doing, is trying to that was the idea of Arlingtines, right? Like we're doing all of these things, but nobody knows about it. It's the tree falls in the forest situation, right? So how do we start pulling that together? And I think housing is a really important one of those, because are you talking about housing is the Affordable Housing Master Plan? Are you talking about MyPAP? Are you talking about what are you, are you talking about the DHS programs, which often will get people, so I think, yes, I agree. I think we need to make that easier for people to see how we do that. I know they have, Housing has, and Alex, you may have to help me. They have their own dashboard on affordable housing, which is great. But again, how many people know about that? I think that is a good question. And I think that is something that we can certainly talk about. That.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Erica.
Absolutely. Alice.
Hi.
Hi.
Oops, I went away. Am I back? Hi. Okay. Thank you. That was really interesting, Erica. Good to see it all in one place.
Yes.
So I had a few things. I guess quickly before I forget about Joe's point. Oh boy, see that? It already went. Oh, I was thinking about CPHD, or I guess the housing division, has its housing news and notes monthly. That might be, I guess Alex is on. Alex, I'm thinking maybe you all could do like a little highlight each month, not just news, but like something, either a program that's happening, a project that was passed, or a dashboard or something. Like maybe that's a place to brag, but also provide raise people's awareness about what's already available in terms of resources. So who knows, maybe, I'm sure every department would like you to do that on the grander scale, Erica, but that would be a place, for the full-on website to have something which is like new or something like that,
Yeah, and I like the idea. So the newsletters is something that we were talking about when I was just toward the end of my tenure in CPHD, somewhat of that same thing. Like we do the monthly. So if somebody sees January or doesn't see January and sees February, they've missed perhaps information in those, right? Like, so how do we bring people along no matter where they enter the process? It was one of the challenges with Langston Boulevard, right? That was a 10-year process. You want to talk about a changing constituency of who you're trying to reach. Like we had to do a massive education campaign because so many people were like, what is this? What are we talking about? Right. The name changed, Lee Highway, it was just, it was a lot of, but how do we bring people along on our story? No matter when they jump in the stream. And I think it's a really,
and you give a really good point about the newsletter too. Maybe, I don't know if they're actually posted. I mean, I received them, but I've never looked to see if I could actually read the old ones on the website.
So inside Arlington, you can, some you can, but again, it's not consistent and it's not necessarily uniform. And also, do people know that, right? Like, do we have something in our newsletter? It's like read all editions or check in, anything like that. Missed last month.
That might be something for CPHD or housing also, since housing is such a hot topic for, those who want it and those who don't. Like that's probably a place where a lot of people are seeking information.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I didn't talk about because it's not really about public engagement. It's more about our internal processes is because Bryna really brought engagement to Arlington County in the way that, and built the foundation. I'm just standing on her shoulders. That, she started putting together an interdepartmental engagers group that met monthly to talk about the way and talk about how they're implementing the 6-step plan when it was first, happened. And one of the first things that I did when I started is I did the exact same for our communicators. So the people that are doing the newsletters, the folks that are running our various social media campaigns, and the folks that are interested in video, because we've got folks in different departments that would work and help, do more with video if they had some of AVG's guidance. And I've tasked sort of each of the leadership team in CAPE to manage those. And I think this conversation about how do we connect people back to our announcements and things would be a great topic for Ryan to take to that interdepartmental communicators group. So I appreciate that. I'm going to write it down.
Right. So I had a few more.
Yes, go ahead.
Katie, is that okay if I just go down my list?
Yeah, quickly.
Okay. The Community Progress Network that we did several years ago, and I don't know who on this call was part of that. It was a while back before COVID, but it was a kind of, I guess it was like a grant-funded process that then APA engaged in with, I don't know what other organizations, because I was on the board of APA at that time, and we kind of started those things. And then the county seemed to come in and partner with us. And we had several like pretty large scale community events. Mostly it was on the Pike and definitely in the southern part of Arlington. But I thought those were so successful, and I'm sure it's logistical and all that. But like you said, getting into the community, having events where there's childcare and there's a meal and there's a program, you're sitting at tables, meeting people you've never met, you're discussing an issue, it was so rich and everyone felt so good. And they made a really big effort to bring out people who never participate in this stuff. So I remember, because I also speak Spanish, so sometimes I'd be at a table helping to hear dialogue from folks and taking notes. And it was like, you could see in their face, like no one ever asks me what I think. I have no idea what to tell people what my needs are, what my community's needs are. Like, so you got, tons of foreign born people, most especially, who just do not think about a relationship with government at all.
No.
So to
Or
be out there
actively avoid it.
Yes, now more than ever. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't
And I
know,
think-
that model I thought was really, really good. I don't know how feasible it is, but.
So we've done that yes, absolutely. In the Community Progress Network, I mean, there were huge partners in the census and, all of that work that happened. And we seek to replicate that idea. It's not, when it happened, it was so revolutionary, right? Like it had never been done in Arlington before. And it was just having the people around the table was in and of itself revolutionary. And I think where we've gotten in our engagement practice is I really want to make sure that we, when we're asking people to come back to the table, that we're doing so with an intention and a purpose. Like, if you come to the table, this is where we're going to use what we learn from you, right? Because I also don't want to be the first time, right? Yes, just come to the table. Like, you've never been to the table, you didn't know your government, somebody you want that wants to listen to you, right? Like, that in and of itself was enough. And so I really, I had some funds specifically set aside in the FY25 budget, one-time money for equitable, something around equitable engagement roundtables. And where we've really been able to funnel that is into the departments that are doing that, so that they can really have those conversations. So right now, like Saul and Bugada are really working with the CPHD team, working on the comp plan and doing focus groups that look just like what you're talking about, where there is one, for Arab Americans and one for Hispanic Americans and one for Asian Americans and one for, and they're in their native languages and they're having a conversation around the table. And then youth and our disabled residents and our elderly, and they're really focused on how do we bring them literally to the table and figuratively to the table. These are in person. And so because I want them to come to the table and know I am helping to inform what ultimately becomes, the introductory chapter of the comp plan. But yeah, I think the how we use it is so important. And, and that's one of the things we have, and I don't know that y'all are aware, but our Engage page that we have, which lists opportunities, right? If people go there, departments send them to us, also has highlights where you can, from previous engagements, where people can go and actually read the reports and sometimes the raw data of what was put out. Because we really do try to, that's the hard, I think the closing the loop and the following up is part of the hardest, because you're on to the next, right? We're engaging all the time for all the things, right? And so making sure that we're intentionally setting an opportunity for us to get back to the community. I think that's really important. So yes, and to all of that. And I think, yeah. But
I had a couple more.
Yeah, go ahead.
One in
Sorry.
general. Yeah,
Sorry,
sorry,
I can
Alice.
keep talking. I apologize.
If we could move on to the next, to Saul, just so we can hopefully wrap this up in the next few minutes. But if you want to maybe send your questions afterward.
Yeah, we can chat, Alice, for sure.
Yeah, I'll write out an email or something. Thanks.
Saul, did you have something?
Well, we kind of touched on it already a little bit. I just want to say thank you for the presentation, Erica.
Yes.
And for the work that you're doing, that you're continuing to do. And yeah, it's been we have come a long way as a community and as a county in improving civic engagement here in Arlington County. I did want to mention something. You were talking about the dashboards. Yep. And I'm wondering, I actually haven't looked for it yet, but I wanted to know, is there such a dashboard as an impact dashboard that Arlington County, where they would list events or activities, projects that are taken on, projects that have happened? Because you also talked about newsletters. Now, the issue or problem with newsletters is that you have to be intentionally go and find the newsletters by month
Yeah.
whenever they came out to find the information you want. So I'm thinking if you had that information in a dashboard where you could easily see what has happened, what is going on, or future or what's coming up, that would be very helpful to find and where to house all that information.
Yeah, and so we have not a dashboard, but we have obviously we have our events calendar, which includes all of our engagements are on there. So if people ask for information, we do have our projects map, which is a little bit more built environment, obviously, than perhaps the community events and things like that, that folks can use and search for by and all of that links out directly to the various project pages. So if you're on the, and I don't know if y'all are aware of that, it's, hold on, I'm going to pull it up while I'm talking, which is always dangerous because then I'm going to make so many typos. But the projects maps, so if you go, here, can I just share my screen one more time, Katie? I'm sorry, I talk a lot. I'm very passionate about this work. So for example, this is just the main, and it's just government/projects map. And so if you click on any one of these and you can pull, and then it's tell me more, right? And it takes you right to the project map there. Now I've got to find what. So that is a version of what you're talking about. Like I said, it's much more capital projects and things like that. Somebody's driving by and they're like, what the heck is the thing that's being built right next to me? Like, how do I find out? The project maps is that is the way to do that. But I think the idea of like, how do we put all of the other ways that people can get information into one place as well, I think is a really interesting
That's sort
concept.
Of what I was saying, like a dashboard that we have, like a dashboard that will link to the other dashboards in the way, Yeah.
A dashboard for the dashboards.
Yeah. A dashboard to the dashboard. But
yeah, I mean,
that would make it easy to get to the other places,
Yep. Absolutely. I think it's a really interesting concept because it's a little bit, again, and maybe it's not just a dashboard, it's a landing page. It's the same thing we tried to do with Arlington's. We just had our new welcome kit launch, digital welcome kit, that's got all the things you need to know if you've become an Arlington resident, and and then what you want to know about your community. So it's not just, hey, here's all the fees you got to pay, but it's learn about your community, learn about your neighborhood. But that's an interesting thought for sure.
Well, also I just wanted to say that I really do like what the county is doing, because for a long time the county would come and to us at Bogota, and they'll be like, hey, how do we get the community involved? And we always be like, well, come to where people are, and that's what you're doing. Come to where they are, bring the engagement to them.
Yes.
So thank you for doing it.
Yep, and thank you for your partnership. I know we call on you a lot, and we always appreciate it. The manager is going to the Buckingham Youth Brigade next week.
Oh yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
We're excited. Karen.
Hi there. Yes, thank you so much for this information. I never knew it all existed. I feel like I've been missing out. But I do have just a very specific question. Yeah. I have found lately that community events, some are well attended and some of them are just total duds. I don't know what else to say. And I don't know if you have any idea. I don't know if you have any ideas. Like pre-COVID, I think more people showed up to these events, and now I feel like when I go to these events, I'm like, it's the same people that are showing up, and I don't know, how effective are these I guess maybe it just depends specifically on what the community event is.
Yeah. So when you say community events, do you mean like community meetings or like actual like events, like
events with tables? I mean, I only went to one this year, but I'm like, I don't want to throw
like a Westover Day type.
Well, yes. And more specifically like the live and work in Arlington one. And I'm like, why are we doing this? I mean, like, it's the same people that come, and what is the purpose
Yep.
and why is all this money going towards this event when it's really kind of old
And not
and
as impactful. Yeah.
yes, and I don't know if I don't really want to throw anybody under the bus, but like how do we use our valuable time more effectively?
Yeah, and I think we need to, those are conversations, and I think that goes a little bit to the don't be afraid to pivot, right? I think sometimes we are afraid to give up. I mean, things that we've done, and I wasn't at the Live in Arlington Fair, but something that we may have done that maybe the community is getting their information in a different way, or they've, and we need to think about what we do. And I think yeah, I think there's definitely, I would encourage you, I don't control all the events or necessarily know sort of what levers would need to pull, but I'm certainly happy to be part of those conversations if we need to start a conversation on pivoting. And I think that's valuable feedback, because again, sometimes the reality is the work is so much and all the time that it can be really easy to forget to pause and be like, are we doing this the best way we need to be doing it, right? Because we just have a lot going on in a great way, but that is a reality. And so I would encourage you, let's have those conversations. And it may be that we end up with like, nope, this is still the right way to do it, but let's at least have the conversation. Let's do the evaluation on things. And then the other question is, how do we partner with community partner? How do we partner with community partners to make sure that if they're having an event that we want to table at, or, how do we help, right? How can we, what leverage do we need to, pull? What levers do we need to pull? Sorry, it's getting late and I'm starting to mix my words. What levers do we need to pull in our communication sort of toolbox? That's mixing metaphors. But you know what I mean? To help make those events successful, right? Like we have the digital signage. Like, is there, and again, these are some of the conversations, but I think that's another part of the conversation is like, if we want to continue to do something and we want to continue to partner, how can we be a better, stronger partner for those things? So.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah. And I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I'm certainly willing to have all the conversations.
Can Nia go quickly, and then can I kind of wrap up with a few questions?
Yeah.
Karen might have been talking about the Live in Arlington Info Fair. Yeah. So I was asked to participate again by the county because I work in residential real estate. And my take on it this year was that perhaps the attendance was a little less, mostly due to the situation with, job layoffs and agency endings and certain uncertainties there. While we had less people stop by our table, the people who did stop by the table were very interested in the information that we had and trying to better understand where we felt things were going as from a housing market standpoint. So that was my take on that. I think some of the outside influences this time did affect the attendance. That was my impression. So.
Yeah, and I think that's a very real thing, Nia. And I think too that part of the conversation is always the qualitative versus the quantitative, right? Like, again, going back to like, it's not a zero-sum game. If you have fewer people, but those people are getting information that they would not have gotten another time, or they're like, where's the balance in terms of how you view ROI? If we're starting to look at it that way. Sure. But I think those are part of the conversations that we have about events when we do them. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you. Yeah. Thanks everyone for the questions, and thanks Erica for answering.
Yeah.
I just had a few more questions and just a little context about what we're doing. So first of all, I'm, very impressed with like all that you're doing. And I learned a lot today about what you're doing. I think it's really cool, like the community liaisons and sort of making sure events are accessible and like doing the partnerships with different nonprofits and faith organizations and, trusted community organizations. And as Saul was saying, like partnering with Bugada, and I think there's a lot of amazing work you all are doing. So Kellen sort of chartered this subcommittee to develop recommendations on community engagement, especially for housing and for people who are less heard from, like renters and lower income people, which I know you all are already working hard at.
If you can give me the solution, I will take all of the suggestions.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, I think, we're doing our best to gather feedback, doing some listening sessions ourselves, doing some
Great.
tabling at events. We have a survey we're distributing. And then we are going to try to do some research about what other jurisdictions are doing. Given that, we all do have limited time, volunteer time. So like we're doing our best, but, I guess I just wanted to ask you, yes, we can share the survey link afterward, but I wanted to ask you, first of all, about that guide that you said is sort of like an internal guide, but it has like, it identifies a lot of things we're looking at, like what are the barriers people are facing to community engagement? How do you overcome that? And like the policies for partnering with other orgs. Like, I know it's internal, but is there any aspect of that you can share with us about like any summary about what you're doing there?
Yeah, and I can talk, let me talk to Sarah, because we've had, interest from other organizations. She did something with the International Partnership for Public Participation, to International Association for Public Participation. I'm never going to get my acronyms right. But anyway, they and was talking about it, and they were like, we would love to see it. And it was like, okay, are we allowed to share this? So yeah, we're still answering that question, but yes, absolutely. I think, again, let's not reinvent the wheel, right? If we can be a resource to you all in your work, I would love to do that. So for sure.
Thank you.
For sure.
Definitely appreciate that.
I'd have to I just got to double check with the CAO in terms of making sure that, like, if we share it, like, we ask you to keep it internal to the commission and things like that. Now, of course, everything's FOIA-able. So, if somebody were to ask for it, we would provide it. So I can't imagine there would be a no, but.
Okay. Whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah,
thanks.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I also kind of wanted to ask about resources. So like, would you like more resources from the county? Obviously the budget is tough these days, but in an ideal world, would it be helpful to have more resources to achieve more of your goals? And like, what would those goals be? What kind of resources would you need,
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest resource we need is not something that can be found in any budget, which is time, right? I mean, that is just the reality. And I think we can always use more resources, right? More people would give everybody more time, right? And that is always appreciated. But I think where I would love to, and this is not so much a monetary need resource, but is those things like the engagement brigade, and trying to figure out, that's kind of just run in like cycles, and it's felt a little bit more like, hey, we need help because we don't have enough staff. Would somebody be willing to help us out, right? Like kind of a supplemental. And I would really love to turn that into a true resource, like a true, folks that are committed. The comp plan was a team, and I'm going to get it wrong because I actually don't know, but they were able to get a grant that is allowing them to actually provide stipends for these community liaisons and things. And so for me, like, I would love help for figuring out what grants are out there that we could maybe take advantage of, right? Like that would be a huge resource, because the budget being what it is and time being what it is, I think that would be, it was the first thing that Sarah Tracy asked me. She's like, can we find a grant? And I was like, I don't know. Do we have time to find a grant?
Yeah.
So, and write the application. So I think some of those would be really helpful. And I think, we're very lucky that we have native Spanish speakers on the Cape team now. I would love, if we were to expand, to really expand into a team that looks more like our community, right? That we're making sure that we're being very intentional about who we are bringing to the table, literally. And again, that's a resource people issue there. But I think there's, so those are just thoughts off the top of my head, but I think certainly your partnership, I think, would be the biggest resource, honestly, is just let's work. We're all rowing in the same direction, right? We all have the same goals. And so I would love to continue to be engaged with the task force and what you're hearing, what you're learning through your networks and your communities, and how do we, I'm not promising perfection or we'll be able to do everything, but I would love to continue the partnership. I think that to me is the biggest resource.
That's great. Yeah, and definitely appreciate partnering with you. And we will make sure to share out our recommendations, because we always write them to the county board, but also we can send them to you. And
and that's always the weird with commissions, because obviously you all are board appointed, and yet we're not board. We work through the board through the manager, right? Like it's a different path, but I think the partnership is definitely key for sure.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. I'm sure I took up more than you anticipated.
No, it was very helpful.
Yes. Thank you all very much. Happy to come back anytime. And if you ever have any questions, I'll send over the presentation to Alex. It'll have the link. Yeah, great. I was going to say, Joe, we were, Joe, we were both there tonight. Our welcome kit. Yes. Nice. The welcome kit is our new welcome kit. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Erica.
All right. Bye-bye.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to propose like a 5-minute break, and then hopefully we can quickly wrap up the second part of our meeting, which would just be talking about our work that we're doing. Does that sound okay?
I have to hop off. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay, Karen. Yeah, we'll
Same
set up
here.
Bye.
Okay, all right. I'll see you both. Yeah. All right, everyone else, can we meet back here at 8:33?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. All right.
I'm back.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna try to wrap this up by 9 o'clock. Thanks everyone for your patience. Just wanted to start going through our next steps and where we're at with our listening sessions, our survey distribution, tabling, everything like that. So first of all, we have the survey in both Spanish and English. It's a Google form. We also have a written version of the survey. I need to translate the written one into Spanish as well. And they're all, I've sent them out to you all, but they're also in the shared Google folder. Does anyone here need access to that Google folder? Does everyone have access and is able to view the Google folder?
If you're able to resend the link, because I'm not certain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, I can send that after this meeting.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if it's possible for people without Gmail accounts to view it. So if you have a Gmail account, if you are willing to share that with me, then I can add you to it that way. Otherwise, I'll just be like, periodically sending out the resources again in emails so that everyone can have them. We also have flyers now. I created a flyer in English and Spanish with like a QR code with the survey, so that people can scan it and then go to the online survey and fill it out there. So that can be used at like if you're tabling at an event and you hand out flyers like I was doing at the tenant summit last weekend. But I know Michael mentioned that, if you are going to be tabling at maybe the food distribution and maybe people prefer to fill out a written survey or just talk to you, like take notes, that works too, whatever kind of works for people.
That all
Okay.
sounds great.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry, that all sounds great. Katie, I was just curious, how did it go with the tenant summit? Did people stop and converse with you? How did you?
Yeah, a few people. It wasn't like heavily attended. There were some people. I honestly was just I think what I got out of it was more just connecting with the different organizations that were there and the different county staff that were there and the tenant landlord commission chair and people like that. But a few people did. Actually, Anne Venezia, I talked to her and she said she was going to distribute the survey, so that's great.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Any report backs? Has anyone gone to any tabling or meetings that they want to report back on? Not yet.
You're muted, Michael.
I've not done anything yet.
That's okay.
And that's something I will be, I'll look at my calendar in the next day or two to put stuff on the calendar. And I mean, some of the stuff I'm looking at, go back to my notes here, is not so much listening sessions as some of the survey opportunities. There's a diaper bank at Arlington Mill. There's a food bank at the mill, the Gates of Ballston. Arlington Mill also hosts the capillary food bank distribution, which is massive.
So which one, Michael?
A capillary food bank.
Oh,
Monthly distribution. I've done outreach there in my previous job, and just it's massive. It's a great place to, and people they line up 2 hours early, and so there's plenty of time. Requires getting up early on a Saturday, not fun, but it's really a great opportunity to reach some people who are, some of the people we're really trying to reach. So
That's great.
Ground that Erica was talking about. So
Yeah. Thank you, Michael, for doing that.
Mhm.
Is there anyone here? I know we don't have everyone, but on the call, but is there anyone here who would like to participate in that with Michael?
So let me do this. I will send out, I will put dates on a calendar, which I need to do. And then I'll share. And what I'll say is ideally for some of these things, most of them, it's really Spanish speaking is hugely important. So you got that, bring it. And
Cool.
if you don't have that, then send someone who does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. And we accept volunteers from outside the task force too. So, yeah. And then Michael, do you want to talk a little bit about listening sessions at True Ground as well?
Yeah, so we were invited to do listening sessions at True Grounds. So those would be actually sitting in place with a group, focus group-ish style. And essentially 2 people would be there. Happy to, and I've done this sort of stuff, so I'm happy to be a lead, like facilitation, leading the conversation. If someone could accompany me as a note taker. And here's a question I'm not sure. Having done this a couple times, I'm happy and willing to do it in 2 languages, not at the same time. It's never fun.
Right.
It's really, and so I think I'd like for and if someone wants to be like the facilitator, not, I'm a little biased that I think I do that fairly well. But yeah, if someone else is like, wait, I do this too, then, come along and I'll be the note taker. Happy to do that. So,
yeah, and that's a great question. I had reached out. The county board office said they don't have any funding for us to hire an interpreter. I know that, it's possible that True Ground might be able to provide something, or you could schedule 2 different listening sessions, or you could break it in half and do half the room in English and half the room in Spanish. I'm not sure, unfortunately, we kind of have to like figure it out with the, host of like how we can make it happen.
Just with my AHC hat on, we did that. We did focus groups for our own stuff internally, and kind of like, who can do what, and who are our Spanish speakers, who are English speakers, and doing that sort of thing. So I did some of that coordinating, and I'll do that with True Ground, and then I'll come back with, okay, here's dates for opportunities who wants to join me. Can you remind me, Katie, what's our timeline on this?
Yes. So we are, and this is what Kellen suggested, is collecting feedback up until about September.
Okay.
And then after that, for the rest of the year, just focusing on, analyzing the feedback and developing recommendations.
Through September.
Yeah.
Or by September.
I think through September, but we may want to, start at that point analyzing, but I don't want to cut people off if they are still submitting feedback, but yeah.
Michael, I would be happy to help you if the timing worked out. Did you say you'd be sending out times and dates kind of thing?
Yeah.
Going forward? Okay. Yeah, because I don't know if Saul's still on. Saul and I had a really successful outreach event at Gates of Arlington last summer. And I thought it went fine to do it. Well, gosh, was it bilingual, Saul, or did we do all in Spanish? I can't even remember. Now I think it was
bilingual. But Katie and I we're hosting one there in June.
You are. Yeah, I'm just mentioning it because I didn't find it that difficult. We had like a, those writing boards, those big ones, flip chart thingy, in Spanish and English, and we're just taking down people's ideas. And I mean, I'd be happy to work with you, but if we wanted to, I'd almost rather do 2 that are bilingual because we get more people, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Anyway, I'd be happy to work with you a little bit on that if the timing worked out. So
awesome. Great, thank you. And Alice, I'll include you on like the follow-up email from this with the different links and whatnot.
That would be great because I'm thinking too, like we're already talking about 2 of the housing providers. If we could get these, AHC, True Ground, and Wesley to, send out this survey to, I mean, it's another survey, so it's not easy for them to do, but figure out what they might be comfortable putting out or hanging up or whatever. They have WhatsApp notifications and stuff, so there might be ways to gather that information from people that it's really hard to hear from.
Yeah, No, that's a great point. And I think besides the listening sessions, you know, I would love if we can start distributing the survey in our or all the organizations that people here represent,
Yeah.
whatever sort of distribution channels you have, as well as if you are partnering with any other nonprofits, any other contacts that can distribute the survey. Like for example, I went to the actually, Karen and I both went to the Latino Roundtable last Thursday, and we were able to. I get to meet someone from the Columbia Pike Partnership, and he said he could distribute the survey like in different bulletin boards and with like the business owners on Columbia Pike. So just any connections you have that can distribute are great.
How about Jeanette Valenzuela with the Arlington Hispanic Parents?
Yeah, I should ask her. I just saw her like twice in the past week, so
Oh gosh, she might be a
yeah,
good one.
that's a good point. I guess, Saul, do you think you can share the survey with Bugatti folks?
Yeah, we can definitely share it.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, whatever extent you're able to, whether it's at events or just throughout your channels. I'll also ask Kiddist. I know she hasn't been able to come the last few times, but I did see her at the tenant summit. She was tabling with me, and she has a network with the ECDC, so I can ask her to share that as well. And then Michael, could you and Alba share it with, if possible, with AHC, like posting it or something?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. That would be really great. Other listening sessions. So Nikki and I did a listening session with a few assistant teachers from APS a week or two ago, and it was just a good like sort of pilot listening session. And I think we heard similar feedback to what we've been getting in the survey so far, which is that people are facing unaffordable rents. The rents are rising too quickly. They're on fixed, very low salaries as assistant teachers, and that's not going up very quickly, and struggling to find a place to live. And they are interested in being involved or in making their voice heard in the county's housing decisions, but just don't have enough information about what's happening. I think that's definitely a thing I've seen a lot in the survey so far, is that people don't have the information. And I know, the county is doing all these efforts, but I know it's hard to reach everybody. So that's why we're here, to help make recommendations as much as possible about that.
Katie, are you able to I guess share survey like a dash? Would you able to
The
get
results.
sort of like a dashboard that we could be seeing what responses are like
Yeah,
periodically?
that's a great idea. I'll look into that and see how I can do that. It might just be I just send the Excel sheet out every once in a while, but if there's a better way I can find to do that, I can look into that. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. So we see what responses are coming in.
Nice. And then there's the listening sessions at AHC properties, which Alba helped us set up, and Saul mentioned we have one at Gates of Boston in late June. Let me find the date.
I think it was the 25th.
25th. Thanks. And Saul, are you able to come to that?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Sorted things out. I'll be there.
Okay, awesome. All right. And then we actually have another one the day before at the Shelton in it's another AHC property. I forget the neighborhood.
Green Valley.
Green Valley. Thank you. And I'm still looking for a volunteer to come with me to that one.
What's
I
the
can also
timing
send
on
it out.
that one, Katie? Evening?
Yeah, it's at around 5 p.m. or after. Yeah.
Okay, I think I could do that one.
Nice. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Yeah, keep us updated on any other listening sessions. Joe, how is it going? I know you and John were going to reach out to the Civic Federation. Sorry, I can't hear you. I don't know what's going on. Sorry. Can't hear you. Can you leave and like rejoin or something?
Or you could type it in the chat.
Yeah. While it's Joe is typing, another thing, I was thinking about is when people come to these listening sessions or, we're talking with them and they're like, oh, I want to be involved, but I don't know how. I thought it would be great for us to like offer them something about like, here's a way you can be involved. And, let me know if you guys have ideas about that. But one just simple one is the comprehensive plan survey that is being distributed, where people can just kind of share their thoughts about like what's their vision for Arlington in the next 25 years. What do they want to see happening in Arlington? So I can also share the survey link after this. And if you're talking to people, if you can share that with them. Also, I added a question to the end of the survey that was like, if you want to stay updated and connected with us, like provide your email address and your name. So that way we could then email those people and say like, hey, here's an opportunity to be involved. Okay. Okay. So Joe you're going to introduce, they're introducing you. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Joe, I'm on that subcommittee. So I'll see you there, I guess.
Nice.
So sorry we can't hear you.
But yeah, in terms of following up by email with the people who fill out the survey, like, do you guys have any idea of the best way to do that? Should I just like periodically just email like BCC all the people who have responded, or is there a better way to do this?
I think that makes good sense. I mean, if you periodically had an opportunity like you're saying, that would be great. And then you're not going to want to keep that going long term. So maybe along the way you figure out how to share places where they can take it from there, right? Like sign up for
Right.
something or learn what meetings they could attend. And then, because you're not going to want to make a long-term commitment to this meeting.
Yeah.
Great.
Right. Yeah, I mean, maybe I can, link the survey and link the county's like Engage Arlington page or something.
Yeah.
Just have them, they can let them know they can check there.
Yeah. And the tricky part is, I mean, I think maybe Saul was talking about this earlier, is that not everybody's, internet savvy. So we, ironically, we're trying to reach out to the folks who are probably the least internet savvy. So that's even trickier to be able to circle back with them for an opportunity that might be online or getting in touch with them online. Like it's all.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Saul, do you have ideas that way?
Well, I'll tell you that getting people to respond to surveys is very difficult, especially when they don't have a computer and they have to maybe respond on a phone. Most people nowadays have smartphones, right? But even responding there is difficult. Or you got to keep in mind also, people's ability to read and write, literacy and all this stuff. Well, they may need assistance in typing up things, so in our experience, you really have to go to the community and have those one-on-one with people and help, make it easy for them to respond. And one of those ways is assist them in completing the survey. So it's very time consuming. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback. And that was something I was just hearing too from Kiddist and from Janet, who were saying like a lot of people don't have a computer and it's better for them, if they have paper or verbal or some other way to communicate. So that's like, I'm definitely interested in hearing more about that one. Yeah.
Even on paper, from our experience, it's like we have to, we rely on volunteers. So we ask volunteers to help their friends and neighbors complete surveys. So, yeah.
and so I threw a question there because it kind of brings to mind, so what sort of engagement are we looking for? It's just, and maybe that's something to add, I'd like to have updates on something. I would like to get involved. Kind of offer, and not to make this more complicated, but I think having the right direction with these is helpful, as opposed to, do you want someone to contact you? Yes, I would. Okay. And maybe that's a follow-up, as, what level of interest do you have? I just like to know what things are happening. Okay, here's an email, or, sign up at, the Engage Arlington has a whole list of sign up for all of these. I'm just trying to direct that a little bit, so that we're not ending up, and by we, I mean you, Katie, apparently, is, and like, okay, there's all these people, but, and from experience working with community groups and volunteers, there are some people that are happy to be back here and like, just keep me informed. And there are other people like, I want something to do. Give me something to do, give me action. And those people will show up to a first and maybe a second meeting. And if they don't have something to do, they're out.
Yeah.
And, it's fair. It's not a criticism. It's like, this is what I came to do. Give me an action. So that's the hard part is, is there an ask for them? I don't know.
That's hard because I work for a community organizing nonprofit, but we on this commission are not community organizers, right? We're just developing recommendations. So I think there's a limited amount that we can do to follow up. It may just be kind of surface level. The only caveat would be like if we are trying to organize a big event later in the summer, potentially, not sure if that's going to happen, but then we could then follow up and invite them to that event. Or if we want to do follow up because we have like a draft list of recommendations and we want to get their feedback on it or something, we could reach it back out or something like that.
Yeah, both of those sound great, Katie. And I'm just thinking, I don't know the plans, and they're supposed to be coming out fairly soon, but the comp plan process, they're supposedly going to be planning some in-person events. So that might be another way to draw people in. I put it in the chat a little earlier. It's a little bit off topic, but when we're sitting here kind of brainstorming about how to connect with people, how to get back, I feel like, Erica's staff has also been doing that. So it does feel like it might be worth us checking in with them towards the end, like in the fall when we're starting to formulate some ideas, like just maybe even a conversation or meeting with them to look at our draft recommendations and get any feedback before we finalize our report, just to see if maybe they're already doing some of those things, or maybe they have, suggestions, or I think it just might be worth checking in like that.
No, I think that's a great idea, because I think I was like, oh my gosh, they're already doing so many things that maybe we were going to recommend. So it's good to
one
stay
of
in
them
touch
shows
with
us that none of us knew any of those things existed or are going on. So they have to get it out better. And just as a follow-up, I didn't really realize that she's kind of an umbrella to assist, but then every department has its own and they're independent in their communications. I was like, whoa, no wonder. So that's a tricky model, but maybe it makes me think maybe we also, or together, would want to engage the CPHD communication people as well, because they've been working much harder to try to get people SPRCs and stuff like that. So again, it might be worth hearing what people are up to before we finalize, or maybe bouncing these ideas off them or whatever we decide to do.
That's a great idea. I can reach out to the CPHD. We're trying to find. Alex, do you know who I should reach out to for the CPHD community engagement staff?
Like Rachel LaPiana?
Yeah, Rachel is probably the best contact there, but I can also talk to her and see if there's anyone that would be better. But I think it would probably be starting with Rachel.
Okay. And I think I may have already had an email exchange with her. And then I think she directed us to Erica. But if she's willing to talk with us, I think it would be good to also kind of hear her perspective, even if it's just like a one-on-one conversation with her. Yeah, Alex, do you think you might be able to make that introduction again?
Yep, I can do that.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
She,
Okay.
She and I connected, and she was looking for some help on really reaching the focus groups that they're doing.
Oh, okay.
So she's probably that person.
Great.
Yeah, I think so too. I helped her try to identify a few people or organizations because they seem to be working really hard on this one. Like I haven't been a part of one that seems this comprehensive in terms of really identifying subpopulations and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
they may have some good lessons learned for us also.
That's great. Yeah, I'm happy to see everything they're doing. And I was also trying to share out the focus groups and the community liaison applications. I don't know if they're still doing the focus groups or if those wrapped up and they're just going to move on to the bigger events. Yeah.
I think if they're not done, they're just about, wasn't it? Maybe Saul knows, weren't they finishing up this week or something?
Yeah, they're wrapping up the focus groups this week.
Yeah.
The community events will be in the fall.
In the fall. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, just to say something a little bit about that, they're doing a lot of, what we've been recommending, as I keep saying, bring the engagement to the people. So we're starting to see that from the county, as Erica mentioned, but specifically with the comp plan update, you see that, they're coming out to the people. They've been having those focus groups in places where the community is, and they're also planning on having the pop-ups. I made a comment earlier there in the chat that I really like that, because you actually go into the community where their target audience, target community is, and so with those pop-ups, they're doing that. They're going to start doing that as well for the comp plan. But I know that the county has done that in the past. They've done it for, say, did a lot of work on that for the census 2020 when Bryna was leading the comms for the county manager.
Yeah.
And so identifying places, safe places, or places where the community gathers, like markets, food markets, plazas, community centers or food distribution sites like AFAC, places where people come to or gather, and having those, setting up a table there or having people there talking to the community, providing the information, whatever project it is that's going on, so it's just bringing that information to the people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'm seeing a lot
that's
of
great.
that. I'm seeing a lot of that going on. I'm very glad that the county has heard. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of times the county would come to us at Bugata asking that same question over and over again, and we'd be like, "Well, come to the people." And like I said earlier, I'm really glad that they've listened and they've done a lot of work towards that.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad to see that too. Okay, I know we are at time, so just a couple more things as we're wrapping up. We're still looking also for people to research policies. So, for example, I noticed that Montgomery County was doing a planning academy, so I forwarded it to you all. If you all, are in the loop, if you're doing your research, or if you could do a little bit of research, and if you know of any other jurisdictions that are doing a good job with this, please send it to us or share it in our meeting. And we have a running document of potential recommendations that we can put them in our Google folder. And then also there was on Tuesday, the Affordable Housing Ordinance Working Group had a presentation on the site plan process. And I think that's another aspect of community engagement that we want to explore. That's why we invited Nia onto our subcommittee. So I'm planning to watch the recording. It's on the webpage for the Affordable Housing Ordinance Working Group. If you all could, if you have the chance to watch it as well. Otherwise, we also could explore having a presentation here, maybe having Nia present or somebody. But I know they just did it, so yeah, there's that. Yeah, and I'll just send out all these resources, all these links and everything. Any other final words before we wrap up here?
Katie, just a big thank you. This was a great meeting, very informative, and sounds like we all have a little work to do. And is the next meeting already set? I'm forgetting how it's monthly. I'm forgetting how it is.
Thanks. Yeah, and thanks for coming. Yeah, the next one is in a month. It's going to be the third Wednesday of June, so that's I think the 18th.
Okay.
And I think we were going to do it at Walter Reed. Alex, is that still the case?
So I have been able to reserve a room at Arlington Mill.
Oh, Arlington Mill, sorry.
I have not tested the technology over there yet, so I will still try to do that before we make a final kind of decision, because it doesn't have exactly all the equipment we need. So I need to make sure that it will work before confirming that.
Thanks for doing that, Alex.
Yep.
I think we were just going to try that out as like a pilot to see if that kind of thing works for the future. Yeah.
Awesome. I like that.
Cool. Okay, well, thank you, everybody.
Happy birthday, Katie. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Y'all have a good weekend. Bye-bye.